Okay, so I wanted to take a few minutes to kind of go through some of the finer points of the class and get you thinking a little bit ahead. So this is English 242. You have a whole bunch of things to do this very first week, and I'm kind of mobile because the room where my desktop computer is in is currently getting new flooring. So I'm sitting here on a chair and jiggling around, so try not to get motion sick. But what you need to do this first week is, of course, you have readings, but you also need to prepare for your presentation, and you also need to start preparing for your final paper. Your final paper, you'll sign up for an individual novel that you'll read and then write a paper on that sort of contextualizes where that novel fits in with what we've been reading this entire semester. Your presentation will be based on one of the works that we've read this semester. And the way the presentation goes is you sign up for it, and then you put together a narrated PowerPoint, and there's a separate video that discusses that. And essentially what you do for the presentation is sort of go through one or two critical perspectives on that particular short story or play or poem, and just sort of teach that to the rest of the students. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to summarize because we've all read it, but you're going to give us different perspectives on it, ways that it fits into American literature, all those sorts of things, okay? And again, there's more information about the presentation and the paper separately found underneath the assignments tab. I have a write-up and a video for each of those, and I believe there's a sample student presentation. What I really wanted to emphasize more than anything else, though, was the final paper. A lot of times what happens in the online classes is I have a reverse bell curve for the final paper, and I have people who do really well, who took the paper seriously at the very start, and then people who didn't. And what normally happens as a result is that I end up with a lot of people who do really poorly in the class, and then a lot of people who do really well in the class. And so I just want to take a second to encourage you to think deeply about this final paper, how to approach it, start the groundwork for the final paper within the next week or so, okay? And just kind of think about how you can approach this. And all the stuff that you learned in 111 and 112 still matters for this paper. So you will certainly be using appropriate formatting. You're going to be using appropriate research. You're going to have an argument where you're going to try to prove things. All that sort of thing, all those sorts of things. And the worst thing is when I get a paper, and I had one last semester, where somebody said, yeah, you know, and it was just very free form, like a long journal entry. At one point in time, they were talking about a television show they had watched the other night, and how that reminded them of how women were treated poorly. All these, that's not a paper, okay? That's just people rambling. So approach your paper with a plan, approach it with research, approach it with the appropriate formatting. Watch the material I put up there, and there's definitely, like, I can pick out and say, here are the people that researched this and understood what was going on, and here are the people that didn't. And there's not much really in between. So you really want to make sure that you're spending time to prepare for this major assignment, because it's a massive portion of your final grade. I did have people last semester, for instance, who didn't do any formatting whatsoever. And MLA style is something that should be second nature by now. And so make sure, I mean, right there is like maybe about 30 or 40 points out of 200 that they lost. And so just fairly simple stuff for the most part, stuff you've been through. This is a literature class, but it also relies on the stuff that came before. No classes in a silo. We're all building on each other. So when I teach 112 and then I get my 242ers coming in from my 112 or my 111, is pretty much, I would expect them to have understood and listened to the things I told them during 111 and 112 and apply those to the 242 paper. So as you think about this stuff, you know, feel free to ask any questions. The deadline basically for signing up for everything is going to be by Friday. And then the way the course works is essentially Monday. This is where you get started, and what I would advise is Monday you do all of your readings or over the weekend. Wednesday you have your initial post. And then Friday, you'll respond to somebody else. Now, if you're doing a presentation on Monday, your presentation needs to be uploaded and then by Friday you'll have responded to somebody else if you want to. For presentation weeks, you don't have to participate other than uploading your presentation. So all of those rules are in the syllabus. All of those things are in the videos I've provided, and so on. So really what you need to do is make sure you've done the readings for this week, the discussion board for this week, and then also make sure you've signed up for your presentation and whatever your final paper will be. As I say on the announcements, if I don't see you signing up by Friday at midnight, I will sign you up. And basically what I do is I start at the top and work my way down. So if you don't want to be reading Ragged Dick, for instance, and from 1889, then you make sure that you want to sign up for something. If you don't want to be doing a presentation next week, make sure you sign up for something. Otherwise, as you progress through the semester, I will see if I can upload a few videos here and there to give you more information. I'll see if I can upload the rubric. It appears on the presentation about the paper, but I'll see if I can upload the rubric as well separately so you can examine that. So basically that's the introduction to the class. Make sure you read and understand the syllabus. Make sure that you take a look at the schedule and that you understand all the stuff that's going on there as well. Essentially, this is a 10-week course, but we packed 15 weeks of material into it. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. If you ever think, well, it seems like I'm reading a lot. Well, that's because we doubled everything up practically. One last note as well before I forget. When you are putting up your presentations and your narrated PowerPoints, give yourself some time in case there's any technical issues. So if you are trying to upload it on Sunday, and you're having issues, you can always try again on Monday. But if I don't see your presentation on Monday, then I'm not taking it at all. You can upload it if you want, but I'll give you a 0 on the presentation for the Monday. So again, make sure you've read everything. Make sure you understood everything. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. One other note too is I know this is summer, so a lot of people are going to be taking vacations. I'll be out and about and so on, but ultimately you decided to take a class over the summer. And by taking that class over the summer, you have said to me that you will do your best to absorb and understand all of the material that I've presented to you. So the fact that you're on vacation for a week doesn't really get a lot of sympathy from me if you have a late assignment or something of that nature, because a lot of people know to prepare in advance. You knew that this vacation was coming, and yet you still signed up for the class. So make sure that you're continuing to participate, even if you have vacations. Very few places in the world that don't have internet access. So as you sign up for your presentation, you sign up for your novels, make sure you're picking things that will suit your own summer schedule as well. So the last thing you want to do is sign up for a presentation where you're going to be off in the Caribbean for a week and be unable to upload it. You won't get a do-over on that. So that should be pretty much everything. Again, every now and again, I will upload these videos. I know students are like, oh God, this video is 10 minutes long. How am I going to watch that? But a lot of the stuff I cover in these 10-minute videos, they're 10 minutes for a reason, because I'm trying to cover a lot of stuff. And you can definitely tell. If you're sitting in the driver's seat like I am, you can definitely tell somebody who took the time to watch a 10-minute video on a paper or a presentation and those who didn't. So the information in there is vital. I think it's worth watching, maybe even more than once, and just kind of pulling out the material that you need as you go through it. One other thing as I'm thinking about it as well, this will be covered in the presentation, but also when you take your final exam, I encourage you to be an active reader. When you read these texts, take notes out of these texts, highlight things if you can, those sorts of things. And then when you get ready to read or write your paper, this includes the novel that you choose as well. When you get ready to take the exam, all of those sorts of things, you will be prepared as much as possible. Don't read the story just to get to the end of the story. Don't read the poem just to get to the end of the poem, but read it with the idea that I'm looking for evidence for an argument. And I think that's the best way to approach things. So anyway, this is the first week, so make sure you do a lot of the housekeeping. You do some reading, discussion board, but you also have housekeeping things to do where you're signing up for both your presentation and your paper, and just follow the Google Docs link that's on the announcements page.